Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. So glad that you all joined us today. Just wanted to introduce myself and my colleague here. So I am Dana, the controller here at DragonFly. I've been with DragonFly for a couple of years now, and I have 13, 14 years of accounting experience, working on your side of the desk. So excited to be able to assist y'all in this transition and be a point of contact going forward. Should you have any issues or questions or recommendations or anything like that, coming from an accounting experience, here to help you help DragonFly push the software forward for our finance folks. With me is Chelsea Jurek. She is our account manager / finance backup role for myself, working with several of our states, assisting with the Ohio transition, and will also be a point of contact, going forward, as well as the support team that DragonFly has to offer. So again, thank you all for joining. We will go over kind of the top objectives of what we're going to try to cover today, and then we'll just jump right into the software, and we're going to click through and just kind of show you the setup and what you're going to need to know to get started in DragonFly. So just real quickly, what we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about organization structure, as far as, whether you're going to need a district level organization or if you're just going to operate out of your high school. We can talk about what that looks like and how to get that set up. We're going to talk about the user management and permissions, so just the actual user roles inside your organization, where to view those permissions, edit those permissions. We'll go over how to set up your bank account, edit those permissions, set up your DragonFly cash accounts, how to fund your cash account. We'll walk through how to pay your officials. We'll look at the reports that are available for you to run for your cash accounts. We'll touch on the 1099s, and then I've thrown in here a link that's to our website where you'll find additional training material that you're free to go search that at any point. It's just going to give you some pre-recorded videos. There's tutorials, printouts, quick how-tos. So just wanted to point that out, that's out there and available to anyone on our website. So the dragonflymax.com, and then you can search the payments platform for all of your finance related stuff. If you have any questions, drop that in the chat, and we're going to go through all of those. And then I just wanted to, again, point out my email and our support email. Feel free to reach out to us anytime. We're happy to help. We want to make this a smooth transition. And so any questions that you have, any issues you run into, please just feel free to reach out to us at any time. So I am going to hop right into our software setup. And so I'm going to be using a test system. I may click back and forth, but so start off, if you haven't already created your DragonFly account, hopefully at this point, most of you have already done that. But if you haven't done that, go out to the website, the dragonflymax.com, create your username, login, and password, and then join your organization. So the high schools are already in there. And then, we'll talk about if you need that district level org. But again, if you haven't already created your login, please go on and do that. We also do recommend that everyone has their own login information. There's no need to share logins. Everything is accessible via permissions. So you'll see what you'll need to see, and your coaches, athletic directors, everyone else will see what they need to see. There's no need to share those logins. You'll set those permissions up and grant those based on your user roles. Once you've created your login and connected to your schools, we don't currently have the district level orgs created necessarily. If you haven't already reached out to us, there's been several groups that have. But if that's something that you're interested in, if that's the way that your setup needs to be, that you need a district level org that you're operating from, please contact myself or support and we'll get that set up. It is completely up to you all, if that's the way you operate. If you need that district level organization and then you have your high schools below that, again, just reach out to us, let us know, and we'll get that set up for you. Otherwise, the high schools are in there. You can go in and connect to those and you could operate, strictly from your high school accounts. Once you get logged in to your DragonFly account and you are connected to your high schools, you're going to be able to log in and see similar to what I'm showing here on my screen. So I like to start here in the Organization and Peoples tab. So I start here and filter, to the staff, just to say that this is where you're going to go to monitor, manage all the users that are connected to your organization. So everyone that joins would have to be approved by administrator role. And then you're going to find that here in this Organization and People tab. You'll notice that all of the users are going to have this icon that shows what user role they have. And then if you click on a user, and then we go to these 3 little dots on the right-hand side and change roles, this is where those permissions are granted for each user. And this is important for us finance folks as we set up our bank account and cash account and set those permissions. You're going to want to be able to reference what users have what roles so that you make sure that you're granting the right users the right permission and prohibiting those that don't need it. Specifically, if it's a finance related user role, you're going to want to make sure that they have the finance role. And those that don't need that, don't have that checked. So I just like to start by saying, be aware that those users live here in the Organization and People tab. It may say Schools and People, depending on how your org is set up. And again, those can be edited by any administrator role just by clicking on that, and then the three little dots, and then change roles. I clicked on the wrong thing. So it may be, as you begin to set that bank account and the cash account up, that you want to assign that those are only accessible by financial. So you'll want to make sure that you come back in and review the users and grant that financial role to anyone that needs it. So just keep that in mind. The setup of your bank account and your cash account is going to be found here in this organization funds or school funds. Again, it just depends on how you have your org set up, the wording of either organization or school funds, but it's going to be found in manage accounts. So inside manage accounts, this is going to be where you connect your bank account. This is going to be where your cash account management lives. You can also find here at the bottom a copy of our W-9 should you need that. There's also additional material. So I'll just jump right in and say to fund your cash account. So think of your cash account as that holding fund where you're going to fund the cash account and then pay. If you're paying your officials, you're going to pay out of your cash account. So you can fund that via ACH or you can fund that via check. So we have, some schools still require that you send a paper check to us to fund that account, which is perfectly fine. We just ask that if you do that, you include this funding instruction sheet. This is just going to be that remittance portion that tells us exactly what to do with the check when we receive it. Again, that can be found here in the Manage Accounts tab. And then down in the financial form. So that's going to be if you're sending payment via paper check to fund your account. Otherwise, to add your bank account, which is going to be necessary if you're ACHing money on the platform, and then when you, at any point that you want to withdraw your funds off the platform back to your bank account, you're going to need that bank account linked. And so to do that, you're just going to go to add new account, bank account, And then it's going to ask you just the standard, adding a bank account information, whether it's personal, business, checking, savings, the name, the account number, routing number. And then it's going to ask you specifically who can use this account. So this can be assigned to specific user roles. So remember, this is what we talked about in the People's tab. So if you want to say anyone with the financial staff can use this bank account, or you can say specific individuals. So if you want to just grant, yourself or one other individual, you can do that as well. It's up to you all. Of course, do remember that if you assign just yourself to use the bank account and there's a personnel change, you take on a different role, you leave, then you would need to grant access to someone else to use that bank account, or they would have to contact us to make that edit internally. So just be aware, the adding just an individual kind of limits that for future use. Again, using the financial staff role is usually what I see, but that can be set however you want. And again, this is specific to the bank account. Once you save this bank account, it's going to send micro deposits to your bank. And so that's going to be 2 small penny deposits, less than 10 cents into your bank account, and then a withdrawal out that's going to net it to 0. And it's going to ask you to come in here and enter those penny amounts, the deposits that were sent, to verify your account. And what that's doing is just a security feature, verifying that you have access to the bank account that you've added into this account. Once you receive those micro deposits, it typically takes 1 to 2 days. Come in here, enter that, and verify. You'll see that the bank account will switch to a green check mark marked verified. Once you see that, your bank account is ready to use. You're ready to transfer money onto the platform whenever you want. You'll see here in this example, you can add multiple bank accounts should you wish. You don't have to, but it is an option. You do have the option to pay with a credit, debit card, P card. That's not seen as often, but I do just want to mention the capability is there. So if you were paying your officials via, a purchase card, you can do that in our system. There are the credit card processing fees with that. So again, we don't typically see that, but just wanted to mention it is an option. So again, you can use the credit and debit card. You can fund your account via ACH debit, or you can send a paper check where you would need to include that funding instruction sheet. Once you have connected your bank account, you'll want to review and manage your cash account. So by default, every school that is created is going to have one cash account named General Fund. So when you log in and you connect to your school and come to manage accounts, you're going to see one General Fund already populated here. You are free to create up to 20 cash accounts if you want to. And so the way that works, it's really more of an internal organization feature. If you want to create, cash accounts by season, by sport, maybe you want a high school and a middle school, or, whatever you want to do, it's a way to organize your transactions into one bucket. You can fund, say, a football account and then pay, all of your football games out of that cash account. And so then you're just easily going to have all of those transactions in one cash account. You don't have to. You can operate solely out of one cash account, the general fund. I see, just as many schools use just one as I do multiple. So, one cash account would mean all of the funding comes in, all of your payments come out, and then you would run a report at the end of the month and you're able to reconcile that way. So just want to mention that the capability to create multiple cash accounts does exist. You can create those at any time. So you could get, a couple of months in and decide you want to do something differently. You can come in and create those additional cash accounts anytime. That's going to be done same way, still in manage accounts, add new account, and then DragonFly cash account. When you create a cash account, it's going to ask you two separate permissions: who can view the account and who can pay with the account. The thought behind that is you may have a broader range of users that you want to allow to view the transactions so they can actually see the payments that are coming in and out. They can see the payments to the officials, but they don't actually have the button to click pay. So it may be that, you know, only your finance, athletic director, and principal have access to click the pay button. So just keep in mind that those are two separate permissions. These permissions are also separate from your bank account permissions. So we've had a lot of discussions how, you know, you may fund the account with the bank account and then allow your athletic director to make the payment. So that is possible, and that's why those permissions are set separately. Your bank account permissions, you know, you can fund the cash account and then grant additional users to use the funds that you have put in the cash account. So by saying who can pay with this account, that's allowing anyone to use the funds that are available in your cash account. So I just wanted to again point out that the cash account permissions are separate from your bank account permissions. I also want to mention that because by default, every organization has a general cash account fund already created, I recommend you going into this manage accounts, click on that cash account, edit that cash account, and review the permissions that are set by default. Again, I'm looking at a test example where we've already kind of made some updates, but by default, you're going to notice that administration is granted permission to both view and pay. That may not be the case in your organization. So again, that is by default already in there. So go into your manage accounts, edit your cash account, and assign those permissions to who you want to have access to view and use that cash account. Once you have your bank account set up, your cash account the way you want it, and you're ready to fund the account, given that you're going to do it ACH, again, you can use a check, but we're going to move over to the accounts tab. So we're still in the organization or school funds, and we're going to move over to accounts. This is where you are going to move money on and off the platform via the withdraw and transfer funds button. To move money onto the platform, to transfer on the platform, you're going to use transfer funds. You're going to select the drop down and select whichever bank account you want to transfer from. You can select whichever cash account. If you have multiple cash accounts, you can select which cash account you want that deposit to go into, the amount, and then you can put a description. Maybe it's fall football, you know, that's an internal reference for yourself. Once you click next, you are going to see a pending line item here in your accounts tab. This is going to confirm that you have submitted a transfer onto the platform that's pending. You'll notice it's in your pending balance. An ACH onto the platform typically takes 2 to 5 business days, usually closer to the 2 business days, but we say 2 to 5 just to cover our bases. Once that posts to the account, you'll notice that it moves to a green committed status, and it's going to move from your pending balance over into your available balance. Your available balance being the funds that you can use to pay your officials. If you want to make a withdrawal off the platform, so you're free to make a withdrawal off the platform at any time, you're going to do that via the withdraw button. So withdraw, you can pull from your available funds. You're going to select which bank account if you have multiple. And then once you request that, you're going to see, you know, the same concept, a line item here showing that withdrawal request out. That too takes 2 to 5 business days for the ACH transfer to process. Again, probably closer to the 2 days always, but just know 2 to 5 to cover our bases. If you do set up multiple cash accounts, you can move money on the platform in between your cash accounts at any time. And so, say for example, you have money sitting in a football account and now it's basketball, so you just want to roll over the funds from football to basketball. You can move your money around via the transfer funds. So you're going to move it from, and you would select, you'll notice the DragonFly icon here. So you can move it from cash account 1 to cash account 2, the amount. And when you confirm that, that's an instant transfer. So if you're moving between cash accounts inside your organization, that's an instant transfer. All of this money movement, there's no fee involved for that. You can move money on the platform, off the platform, in between your cash accounts whenever you want to. There's no fee involved for that. Just want to point that out. So you'll notice here in our example, this transaction history begins to build out as you use your cash account. So as you begin to move money, make payments, you're going to begin to see this transaction history build out, and it will just go on indefinitely. Inside this transaction history, you're going to be able to pull the details related to any of those transactions. So if you click anywhere on this transaction line item, it's going to open up this side window where it's going to give you just a quick snapshot of what this payment was for, who paid it, the brief game details. It's going to show you any fees involved, and then it's going to also give you your PDF receipt that you can open and print and save. So you're going to have that for every transaction, in or out. You're going to be able to click on that, open that detail, and download that PDF receipt. Also here, still in the organization of school funds, if you move over to the invoices tab, this is going to be, the storage vault for all of those receipts or any other invoices that you generate or are sent to you. So, first off, if you make a payment to an official, it's going to automatically create an invoice, stamp it paid, and it's going to here we go. And it's going to live here in that invoices tab, as well as, that PDF that's attached to that transaction line item. So you'll have this, your officials have this for every payment that you make. Again, that's going to live here in this invoices tab. This is also, where you would go if you wanted to create an invoice and send it to, schools for registration fees for a tournament, or maybe someone sent you an invoice. All of that's going to live here in this invoices tab, and you can filter via invoices that you need to pay versus people owe you. So you have outstanding invoices that you've issued. All of that, again, is going to live in this invoices, as well as the receipts you can get to via clicking on that transaction line in the accounts tab. One other little small feature that I like to mention, as your transactions begin to build out, you may have 6 months worth of transactions here, and you're trying to get back to, say, something in January. We've added this little helpful jump to box here, rather than just clicking the back arrow until you get back to January. You can quickly just type in a date that you want to, go to, and it's going to take you to the first transaction. You'll see here November 2022. So we didn't actually have anything in January. So it's going to take you back to that date and everything, prior to that. So just a quick, helpful hint that if you're looking for something, maybe save you 20 clicks of the back arrow. That's what the jump to date box here in your accounts tab is used for, just to kind of quickly take you to a date in your transaction history. You'll notice, as I was clicking through my cash accounts, if you do create multiple cash accounts, you'll be able to toggle between those and view the activity specific to your cash accounts. So again, that's if you create multiple. And then also in your accounts tab, skipping down, we'll just look at the reports now. this is where you're going to access the reports for your transaction history. So those are going to be available via this sheet of paper icon here in the accounts. So when you click on that, these are going to be specific to whatever cash account you have opened here. And these are just a couple of different options that you have to run. So starting from the bottom, you know, this cash account, all data, this is kind of where we started prior to, you know, my accounting experience coming in and saying, you know, we can do better than that. So just know that this all data is literally every piece of data that you could have regarding, you know, a transaction. It's a CSV download built by a brilliant engineer, but it's all data. So just be prepared if you run that, don't be overwhelmed. Moving up from the all data, you know, these are reports that we actually just rolled out earlier this year that I helped create with our accountants in mind. You know, what do we need to reconcile at the end of the month? So hopefully these reports will give you, you know, easily what you need to do that. So gonna pull a quick example here. Chelsea, holler if y'all can't see that. I'm gonna move it over. Good. So can you see my Excel?
We cannot.
Oh goodness. Okay. I don't know how to do that then. Well, I'll just speak through it. You can run those Excel reports. They're going to be Excel downloads that break out your travel fee, if you have a travel fee, game fee, and then that invoice fee into a clean Excel downloadable report. You know, if you need to use that to upload that to accounting software or you're just checking it off, you know, I would recommend starting here with this detailed transaction history. And then up from that are just going to be summarized views of that same data. So it summarize it by sport. It's going to summarize it by game fee versus invoice fee is what this cash account summary, you know, is summary by item type. The monthly statement is going to be a little bit more narrow than this detailed transaction. So detail is going to give you all the game detail as far as official names, location, etc. This monthly statement is going to be, you know, a quick brief snapshot. Also the monthly statement, you run that per month, whereas this detailed transaction history, you can do a date range. So just a couple of differences, but just know that you can run those whenever you want, as often as you want. You're not going to break anything. And I'm super open to feedback. You know, if there's something in the software data-wise that you're not getting in your reports, I want to be sure that you're getting that. So, you know, again, open to feedback if there's additional reporting features that would be helpful for you all. So moving along to actually making a payment, you know, your accounts are set up, you funded your account. I'll say, you know, as soon as your bank account is connected, you are free to fund that account whenever you want to. So I've had a couple of schools reach out and ask, can I fund my account? Absolutely. And those funds would just sit in your account until you're ready to make a payment. So that could be funded in July and you don't make a payment until the end of August. That's absolutely okay. As soon as your bank account's connected, you control those permissions. Feel free to fund that account and be ready on your end as soon as you want to. When you are ready to make a payment, payments are going to be made via the game schedule. So inside your game schedule, and I'm actually going to click over to an Olentangy school that I feel is a good example as we've been working with them. So inside your game schedule, when you connect to your school, you should already have access to see your game schedule. This has been going on, you know, we've added all the games in. The athletic directors and assigners are working, you know, right now on their game assignments, game fees. So all of that should be, if it's not, you know, completely up to date, they're working on that behind the scenes as well. So when you log into your school and go to the game schedule, you should have access to view what is currently out there and available. For us finance folks, you're going to want to make sure you're on this pay window. So just a small nuance, schedule versus pay. If you're not on the pay window, you're not going to see the $ option to make a payment. So just be sure that you have clicked over to the pay window. One other small notable, if your academic year has not yet rolled to 23-24, you may have to manually do that. I know that that's a transition that is currently happening. As of yesterday, they were almost complete with that. So just know if that has not rolled over, you may have to manually change the year. That will definitely be done before the first of the school year. But if you go in today and it's not there, you can change the year via that box. So once you're in your game schedule, for accounting, this should be ready to pay once the game is completed. So, the process up until now, your assigners are entering in those officials, they're maintaining the game fees. If changes are being made to the game, that's reflected here in this game schedule. That's their responsibility and should be part of their process. So the idea is once it gets to accounting, the game is complete and ready to be paid. It's going to be super simple, click this pay button. One thing that I do mention, and it's not required, but if you filter to a host school, so your host school, it's going to narrow that game schedule down and show you only the games that you're hosting. And so what that does, theoretically, you're only paying for games that you're hosting. The system will allow you to pay any game. So if you clicked on a game that you are the away opponent, you can pay that. It's going to warn you that you're trying to pay an away contest. But if you click through those warnings, the system will allow you to pay any game. So just one of the things that we recommend, and you don't have to, but filtering by your host school is just going to keep you from clicking any game that you theoretically should not have to pay for. So once you do that and you're ready to make a payment, you'll just come into this line item and the $ on the very right hand side, when you click that, it's going to open this manage payments window, and it's going to pull through the game assignments that have already been made. So these are the officials that were assigned, the game fee. This can be edited at this point. So if you're told, oh, that should have been 90, you can come in and click and edit these fields prior to confirming payment. You can select or deselect an official if you need to. But once you do that, and I'm going to click back over to my test system so that we can actually click through a game. When you confirm you're ready to pay, it's going to ask you, what school's paying it. So keep in mind, if you are, say, at the district level and you're connected to all of your high schools, it's going to say, okay, which school is actually paying for this? And this question is specific to that's who's going to stamp on the invoice, meaning that they paid. So school 1 is paying this. And then step 2 is going to ask you from what cash account. So it is a 2-part question. If you're connected to multiple schools is when it's really relevant, just so that the right stamp on the invoice happens. But once you get to this step, it's going to ask you your payment method. And this is where it's going to ask you from what cash account. So if you are connected to multiple cash accounts, you'll select which cash account you want to use to fund this payment. You'll notice here that it's at this point that the invoice fee is calculated for all of the Ohio games that are paid from any of the Ohio high school organizations. That's going to be $1.50. So that's $1.50 per official per day. So if an official calls multiple games in one day, keep in mind that it's just the $1.50 for the first game per day. And that's per official per day, $1.50. That's going to be the only fee that is incurred for using the DragonFly software. Once you confirm payment here, so you've selected what payment, cash account you want to use and you select pay, an automatic transfer is going to happen out of your cash account and into the official's cash account. So by default, any official that has a DragonFly account has a DragonFly cash account. So if they've been assigned to a game, they have a cash account. It is the official's responsibility to then go in and connect their bank account to their cash account so they can withdraw their funds. But that does not prohibit you from making a payment to them. So you can make a payment as soon as an official is assigned to a game. You can pay them because it's going to go into their DragonFly cash account. We process the 1099s. So part of that official connecting their bank account to withdraw the funds, we're asking for that W-9 information so that at the end of the year, we run those reports, we issue the 1099s with the IRS and directly to the official. So the schools don't have to do any of that, no additional fee for that. And then the official, once they connect their bank account, they are free to withdraw their funds from their bank account or from their DragonFly cash account into their bank account whenever they want to. There is no fee associated with the officials withdrawing their funds. One other thing that is helpful in the game schedule I like to point out, I will also show you can add games to a pay sheet. So when you click on a game, you may want to add them to a pay sheet. And so you'll see some examples that are already created here, or you can create a new pay sheet. And so the way that works is you're building an invoice to pay, basically. And typically I see this more in a separation of duties type situation. You may have, say, a bookkeeper who's coming in, reviewing these payments, adding them to a pay sheet, and then maybe, you know, your CFO or some other person is actually clicking the pay button. So you can build out this pay sheet and then come in and click pay now, and you're going to, it's adding all my signers, and then it's going to allow you to make payment on all of those games that you have added to that pay sheet. It's not necessarily any less clicks because you do have to click on every game and add it to a pay sheet, but it is more of that separation of duties, or maybe you want to just build an invoice and pay it, you know, once a week or how it's an option. It's out there and it's available. So I just wanted to speak to what the pay sheet actually was. So you can pay, you know, per game. You know, it's typically what we see. You go through and you make that payment next day after the game is complete. If you want to, you can do them daily, you can do it weekly. However your internal process works, you're free to make those payments whenever you want. Or again, you can build a pay sheet and then pay that all at once if you want to do that. Also here in the game schedule, if you click anywhere on a game, kind of like that transaction detail, this additional side window opens up, and this is where, you know, your game details live. So when they're creating that game, the officials and workers, so all the assignments that are being made kind of behind the scenes. But in the documents tab, I just like to point out for our finance folks, there is the option to create a payment voucher. So if you go to documents, create document, and then payment voucher, you can print a voucher of the game assignments, you know, and take this to the game and have your officials sign off on it and confirm, yes, I worked this game and this was the fee that I agreed to. This is not a requirement by DragonFly. This is just an option that's available that, you know, a lot of schools requested, and we wanted to make that option, you know, make this available should you want to use it. So again, in the game schedule for any game, you can just click the game, go to your documents, create document, and then payment voucher. I will mention, you know, officials and workers, you'll see here the separation. The idea behind that being, you know, anyone can be paid on a game. So we've had, you know, the requests come in that I want to pay my clock operator or my doorkeeper or anyone. You can pay any worker that you assign to a game, you can pay via the DragonFly payment platform. The requirement would just be that that user needs to have a DragonFly account, which is free to create for anyone. So create an account and then assign them to a game. So, you know, in your officials and workers tab, if you want to assign a worker, you can come in here. You'll see in this example, we assigned a concession, and then you would just come in, add that person. You know, your assigner may be doing this. You could do this if you want to pay them, but any individual could be assigned a worker position and paid via the DragonFly. Keep in mind that transaction invoice fee would apply same for the workers as it would officials, but I just wanted to mention just kind of the difference between official and worker. Worker is just opening that up to being able to pay anyone on a game. But again, payments do have to be made via a game. So the question came up in one training, can I do a one-off payment to an individual? Not currently. The ability to invoice another school or organization is there. So we looked at in our invoice tab in accounts, you can create an invoice to an organization and transfer payment that method. But you cannot make a one-off payment to an official without them being assigned to a game. So officials and workers have to be assigned to a game to make payment. I think that is pretty much it. Chelsea, do you have anything to add? If not, we'll just open it up to questions. So any questions that you might have?
We can open up to questions and see if anyone has anything that they need extra guidance on.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both. We actually do not have any questions that have come in just yet. And we do operate on a little bit of a delay, so we could sit here for a hot second and see if any do roll in. But I know that we do have some additional trainings coming up as well for this same exact topic that we're going to be doing over the next 2 weeks. I think our next one is July 18th. The following one is, I want to say, July 25th, and then we also have one or two in August scheduled as well. And those can be signed up for if you wanted to, take more information, or feel somebody in your school could also benefit from this training. You can sign up through OHSAA.org/meetings. But taking a look, even since we've opened it up for questions, we haven't had any come in. So we'll go ahead and close that for now. I did put the DragonFly support email into our chats for our announcements. So feel free to shoot any questions that way if any pop up. Otherwise, if you'd like I said, you can join us next week on July 18th at the exact same time, so 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. for an additional finance trip. Anything else from Dana or Jesse?
No, that's all. Yeah. Thanks, Ronald, for mentioning the follow-up trainings. If you're aware of other schools that may not be aware of the training, feel free to share this out. We want to reach as many people as we can to make this an easy transition. Feel free to reach out to me directly or to our support team if you have any questions as you get in there and get set up and begin operating. Just, reach out to us. We're here. We're happy to help any way we can. So thank you again for joining. I hope this was helpful. And y'all, I hope you have a great day.